It is a beautiful California wine country kind of afternoon. Soft, beautiful light as we are getting ready to go with the second to last round of the Pirelli World Challenge GTS Championship as part of the Pirelli World Challenge Grand Prix of Sonoma. The grid is ready, and down amongst them is Jeff Lepper. What's up?
Well, exciting times down here, Greg, and it's going to be all about this guy right here, the number 10, Lawson Aschenbach, your 5-time champion. It's already been clinched. Only one race win this season. He wants to better that, no doubt. Rodrigo Baptista has been the man as well in this Porsche Cayman. 4 wins on the season. Surprising front row with Martin Barkey. He's been fast all season long. Reliability issues, bad luck for this car. Look for that MBRP motor exhaust cross motor do really good, but right here 5 times in this Panos, Ian James, he stepped on that top step of the podium. He's trying to make it 6 and maybe 7 tomorrow, what might have been had they been at St. Pete.
Yeah, absolutely. As the command has been given and we're getting ready to go, obviously that Avezzano GT, a brand new car when it set foot in the first race of the season. They went through some serious teething issues, but when they got it right, it has been a potent package. There, speaking of potent packages, is a beauty. It is the Cadillac ATS-V, the official safety vehicle of the Pirelli World Challenge, all part of a great partnership with Cadillac that has endured for an awful lot of years as this field sets off and gets underway. And there is the Cadillac Escalade, which is our official medical vehicle for this championship. Again, a big thanks to the folks at Cadillac. And one of the things you can take a look when you look at the field, Cal, sitting alongside me here, is it's a little smaller than we've seen over the year. Sadly, a number of the teams are based in Florida, right, and or drivers are based there, and they had far more important things to worry about than other than coming to a race. Completely understandable. But those that are here are ready to go after.
Yeah, they are. It'll be a fantastic race. Disappointed not to see the big field that we anticipated, but that hurricane was something else. Certainly a lot of teams had to prepare for it hitting Florida. Some got lucky, but even so, it was just too late to get the cars out to the West Coast. But even so, it's going to be great to see what will happen here. Lawson Aschenbach, as Jeff mentioned, 5-time champ, but there's a manufacturer's title on the line. There's a team's championship on the line. And there's also most wins on the year. Ian James has 5 wins right now, but Rodrigo Baptista starting on the second row. He has 4 to his name. Yeah. If he could sweep this weekend, that would be a big mantle to have in terms of most wins on the year.
And after qualifying in the GTSA category for the non-professional driver, George Kurtz ended up clinching the championship. Same story, however, there's plenty to race for there that everybody's excited about. And the interesting thing here, as you said, is this is a track, it puts huge demands on chassis and the like. It's very serpentine, very technical, very tricky, which means that what we see at the start of the race, when you've got such a wide variety of vehicles, powerful but heavy, not as powerful but lightweight, things change dynamically as this race unfolds. This could be fun.
It is, yeah, and it's a 50-minute sprint race. And it's going to be interesting to see which team, which car has got the handle on the setup over those 50 minutes. I mean, you talk about the serpentine nature and the tightness of some of the corners. Talking to Ian James there, he says he's having a one-hander around some of these tight corners here in the hairpin turns. That's how much lock he's having to use with that Panos to get it through these corners like the one we're looking at here, turn 7.
Well, that's part of the Pirelli keys to the race. One of them has got to be, you've got to beat the track, because this place just keeps throwing it at you, blind brows and the like. It's unique.
It is. It's special. It's old school. I love it. I love the flow and the elevation change. I find very demanding. To be honest with you, I struggled to get used to that and finding the groove and knowing exactly where the car's going to land when you can't see the other side. But obviously, these guys have a lot of laps here this weekend. They've got that rhythm. They've got the feel for the racetrack, and it should be a good one.
I think the other one would be, with both championships clinched, is enjoy your freedom. Go for wins, man. Have some fun out there. We saw George Kurtz. Let's not forget, 2nd and 3rd in the GTSA championship. Tony Gables and Mark Lennon separated by 1 point. And so there's that to be racing for as well. And, of course, the first race of a doubleheader weekend means that we are doing a rolling start. So the field now, as the safety car is in the VP Racing Fuels acceleration zone. And they have to get around that sort of blind by the wall there, turn 12, to get to the start stand and watch for that green flag. And Ian James bringing him up, and it flies. We are underway. 50 minutes of GTS competition. And look at Martin Barkey, a winner here last year. He wants to get a win here.
He tucks it in really quickly. That was a sudden move there, but he just cleared the nose of Baptista. Baptista, though, looking for a way. He's trying to get inside of Lawson Aschenbach as they accelerate up to turn 3.
Watch, can Lawson do something from the outside? He does. Now that gets him the inside as they get to 3A, highest part of the track. Ooh, big loose moment for Lawson. and he decided to just let it float to the right, thinking that Baptista was coming after him.
Yeah, I think he had two things going on at the same time: to save the race car and then defend the position. So he'll probably use the sideways nature of the car to defend that to the stewards. But certainly Baptista was looking to make a move. Lawson looking to the flank, the high flank there of Barkey, but meanwhile Ian James is just taking off.
Well, in Barkey, that crossbow in very different configuration in terms of the balance of performance as it was last year, carrying a huge amount more weight, but also a little bit more unrestricted in the engine department. And he's been on a pretty steep learning curve to figure out that new setup. It really happened about halfway through the season. Nailed it here with that great run in qualifying outside front row.
Yeah, it was a great run for him. Spoke to him yesterday. He said, I've really enjoyed this season, despite the fact it's hard to believe, Greg, he is not yet finished on the podium.
Yeah.
He's third in points, just super consistency. You know, he's had poles, he's led races, but hasn't been able to step on a podium yet this year, and he's hoping to put it straight here this weekend.
Well, I think he's certainly got the potential here this weekend. It's just a matter of obviously getting into that race group. And one thing that's helped.
Derek DeBoer there, a late move to the inside of Parker
Chase.
Chase. He's our leader in GTSA right now. Derek DeBoer with the TRG group, based here locally. Spoke to Kevin Buckler, the team principal there. He said, I've really taken Derek under my wing, try to teach him all of the tricks of the trade around this circuit that he knows so well.
And Derek now lives in Oregon, but I think he has certainly spent a lot of time at this track doing lots of development and the like. So somebody that's familiar with this track. And the Aston Martin got a little bit of a break in terms of some of the BOP coming into this round of the championship. So that's a pretty lively Aston Martin advantage right now.
Oh, it's going to be very strong. Derek's doing a great job. And talking about other local teams, and let's not forget Flying Lizard, based here in Sonoma as well. So they know the racetrack very well, both Baptista and particularly Nate Stacey. When he made that move over to this team for this year, did a lot of winter testing here, many days under his belt. So he should be in good shape here today.
And Stacey way wide coming out of the carousel, trying to get a run on DeBoer. He wants to move up. He and his teammate Rodrigo Baptista, who right now sits in the 4th spot with Stacey back in 7th, dead even in the points coming in here. They're not in the championship. Obviously, that's unfolded already. There's that inter-team rivalry you want to get after here.
You do. You want the bragging rights. Certainly Baptista has it in terms of victories, but Nate has done a nice job adjusting this new platform from the Mustang last year. But up front, Ian James looking comfortable up front. Dr. Don Panos is on the facilities this weekend, so he's in attendance, and that'll give any driver when the team boss is here
You bet.
a bit extra incentive.
Especially one who's really the legend that he is now in terms of Dr. Don Panos and everything he's done for the sport. There is a look at a great story this season. He only started racing a couple of events ago. That's the number 7 of Carter Young, driving for Global Motorsports Group in that Porsche Cayman Club Sport MR. A customer of GMG with his personal car, and then decided to do track days and the like. Well, guess what? He is your Optima Batteries Best Start Award winner, up 2 spots on the opening lap. And at the most recent round of the championship at Circuit of the Americas, in only his 2nd race ever, 2 podiums in GTSA. You know, sometimes you find somebody that just kind of gets it, and he did that with 2 badly broken fingers. Talked to him a little bit earlier this weekend. He said, I can put the splint on the outside of my hand now, so now I can actually paddle shift without having to totally torque my hand, but he's still driving a little wounded.
Yeah, and that will compromise him a little bit, but he did a great job at the last round of the championship, as you said. Really impressive performance, has a lot of potential. But up front, Ian James looking for that 6th victory on this championship year, and you'd have to think, Greg, if this car hadn't had to go through the development process at the beginning of the year, he would have been a serious threat for the Drivers' Championship on Lawson-Aschenbach.
I don't think there's any question. I mean, Ian is a driver that you just load up with superlatives when you talk about him. And it's great to have in the champion. There's Baptista being hounded now by Parker Chase. Qualified 5th, Parker did. And Parker comes off 2 podiums as well at the most recent 2 rounds at Circuit of the Americas in the GTS category. He was really, really impressive and fast there. And he, too, is another one of these young guns.
Yeah, and he was a man who was very frustrated after qualifying, Greg. He felt that he was held up by our pole setter, Ian James, a couple of times, and kind of made his thought process known to the team when he came down pit lane after his qualifying run. So he's probably sitting there, back there in the 5th position right now, thinking, I've got a lot more speed to show.
Well, and once again, that's one of those cars, very lightweight. It runs just a stock V6 Ford engine in it, but it gets stronger generally as the race unfolds. There's a look at 17-year-old Nate Stacey. And again, he's one of those guys, I mean, watching him around this track last year in that Mustang, he got a win in one of the 2 races, and it was just a joy to watch. Had a great charge. Oh, look at this action. Yep.
Up into 3, trying to make the move. Baptista fights back, but now Parker Chase has the inside lane, should clear him easily down into turn 4.
Yeah, well, that was nice. Just got Baptista a little bit offline and able to take advantage of it. So great move there by Parker. And now we'll see if he's got something to be able to run down Lasse Aschenbach and Martin Barkey. And one of the things that with that added weight on the crossbow, you know, obviously with the fact that they've allowed to run more power with it, so it actually makes the car race a little bit better. It makes the tires come up to temp a little bit quicker, which was a part that was really a struggle for those guys sometimes.
That's the good side of it. The bad news is it's a pretty skinny tire with a bit more power underneath it, so the key is maintaining that balance throughout the course of the race.
Just working it, being smooth. And I'll tell you what, Derek DeBoer is coming, isn't he? He is starting to close up here, leading in the GTSA category, and he is running down Baptista and Chase.
Loves his racing, really works hard on the business side of things in terms of introducing new sponsors to the sport. He and Kevin Butler certainly have a similar vein there in terms of what they try to do with the motorsport platform.
And make no mistake, the man's got...
Aschenbach looked like he was trying to make a move there.
Oh, and
Barkey defends, runs wide, washes out. Who can get the power down? Barkey with a big arc is able to accelerate a little bit cleaner off as Lawson tucked it in. Couldn't quite go to the power early enough. That's a cool shot.
Isn't that a great shot? And you made a really good point there, is that, you know, you look at that wide arc and you think, oh, you're eating up an awful lot more racetrack. However, when you're not pinching the steering on it, you can go to throttle sooner, right?
Absolutely. It's like your hands and your feet are really tied to a string. Doing a lot of school days at the Mid-Ohio track. That's what we used to tell the basic instruction to new drivers to the sport, is like you can't have full of both. You can't be full throttle and full steering at the same time. You got to blend them both together. And by opening your hands coming off these corners allows you to accelerate a little bit harder without getting any traction issues.
Always, of course, not exceeding the friction circle.
Absolutely.
Okay, good. Just want to get that one done. Well, what a great corner. Talk about a friction circle. That falling downhill left-hand carousel that just seems to go on forever. And you better get out of that turn well, because this is one of the longest sections of straight you got on this track here down into turn 7. One of the best overtaking areas.
Dream James this weekend, he said, it's nearly 10 years since I last competed here. So he said, I love this racetrack, and certainly they've done a great job with this Panos in terms of developing the platform. He said it really has no real weaknesses. He said fast change of direction, the steering rack really isn't that fast, so we could tidy that up a little bit. We're not running the full potential in terms of the brake package, so we may be leaving a little bit on the table there, but everything else it does well and has great torque, which is really important in this class.
Yeah, when you think about it, the first couple of races of the season, it was running an actual H-pattern manual shift while everybody else was in the paddles. Just getting around that was a time-consuming process. And once they solved that, they found the next couple of weak links, and when they clicked on it, it was good. And
little battle here.
We got a little damage there in the left front of the 04 of Kurtz, who, as we said, now our champion-elect in the GTSA category.
Chasing down young Alex Lloyd, who's good to see him back in competition. Has a good history with CRP, who are campaigning this Cayman for them this weekend. One of the team sponsors, Fred Roberts, owns that car, and they met at a vintage event and struck up a relationship. And we actually saw Alex compete in the GT category a few years ago for this team as well.
Yeah, 2014 he ran 3 races here, but we're seeing that damage on the 04 of Kurtz. Jeff, what's the word from pit lane?
I talked with the Global Motorsports Group team here, and they said, you know, it's just the famous words of Calvin Fish quoted by James Sofronis, just a little argy-bargy on the start.
No, it's going to happen in this close concert racing. And, you know, we were talking about Carter Young and his achievements running for Global Motorsports Group being so good. This guy comes in, he ran a couple races at the end of last year, but essentially for a full season, a rookie this year, comes in here, 8 straight wins he's put together, 9 total, and came from way deep in the championship when they struggled a lot with the McLaren in the early part of the season. When it all came good, he has just been up on the wheel and done a superb job and clinched the championship a couple of races back. So good stuff here. Boy, Parker didn't take him long to run down Lawson, did it?
No, it seems like Lawson has backed up just a little bit from Martin Barkey, and that's certainly got him into the sights of Parker Chase here. Janetta's looking strong. Good to see those guys back here for the latter stages of the year.
Yeah, it is.
There might be a new car in the pipeline. Probably not beginning of next year, but a little bit down the road. So everyone's really looking ahead to this global GT4 platform. Talk of Audi, Mercedes possibly being on the grid next year, so it's very exciting times for this class in general.
You bet it is. And there's Lawson in the GT4 homologated Camaro. And Parker, you talked about, there's two teams running the Ginettas here. Parker in the Performance Motorsports Group team. And then there are two cars here from Ian Lacey Racing. Drew Stavely currently running back in the 8th spot in the number 12. And his GTSA teammate, Frank Gannett, in the number 24 car. So a couple of different programs really do like this Ginetta platform, and why not? It's racing.
Yeah. And Ian Lacey, they run the older car, so it doesn't have quite the same horsepower, not the same electronic aids as the car that Parker Chase is campaigning right now. Oh, look at this. Tightens it up. He's able to get down to the inside. But again, it's just a question. You can't really just accelerate as quickly as the guy on the outside when he's already got his hand straight. But he is working him over right now. Does he have enough horsepower? Lawson defends immediately. Just ahead. He wasn't being reactive there, but it was almost simultaneously as Parker was trying to make the move. But Lawson's savvy. He knows the rules, and he'll try and just stay on the right side of that in terms of not blocking.
That's something I've marveled at over the last 2 seasons, when sometimes that Camaro up against these lighter weight cars, especially later in a race, Lawson's ability, he just has eyes in the back of his head, because he puts that car right where that guy wants to go as the guy's thinking about doing it. Lawson's suddenly there. He's something special. He really is.
I think he's one of those drivers. Bobby Rahal used to talk to me about this. He's one of those drivers who still has some capacity left in terms of his brain. He's not using it all to drive the race car. He's got some space up there to think it through, and I think Lawson's one of those guys. He's driving the car on the limit, but at the same time he can think through the racecraft of where to place the race car and being a step ahead of the game.
I guess when you're a Vanderbilt graduate with 2 degrees and some pretty heady stuff, you've got that capability. We're watching not just because he's leading here, Ian James in the number 50 Panos, but also he carries our iBox suspension cam. And this is one of those tracks, Cal, as you see all the elevation change, jumps over blind brows and the like, and you got to be up on the curbs. These suspensions here take a bit of a pounding.
You need it all here, that is for sure. Certainly you talked about the rhythm and the nature of the racetrack, Greg. Serpentine, you got some tight corners, you got elevation change where the suspension is really kind of hung up in the air for a long time. You've got to control all of that. Trying to maintain the contact patch is really what the IBAC suspension system is doing. So we see Parker Chase again gets off turn 7 so effectively.
And
look at this.
This is DeBoer doing the same thing, and he made it work on Baptista. That was impressive.
We talk about rivalries. It's probably a big one. Oh, look at this. Chase looking down the inside of Lawson Archenbach. Not quite close enough. But you got the whole TRG Flying Lizard rivalry, the locally based teams here as well. Great race by Derek DeBoer.
Phenomenal stuff. Love the new graphics on that car, too. Just a great color package on it as he comes whistling through. And the one thing, watching Parker Chase trying to attack on that Camaro of Archenbach, one, you've got Archenbach's skill as a driver, but also that Camaro, even with the extra weight it carries because of the power, just extremely good on brakes.
It is, yeah, it really breaks.
Always
it's all about the vehicle dynamics, Greg, and just having the whole suspension system working together. But he's going to be having to use those brakes here because Parker Chase is looking feisty. Great job by Barkey, though. He's really having a solid run here. Talk to him that he's looking to try and come back next year. Not sure exactly with what platform if he does, but really feels comfortable with the whole group that he's got around him. Great engineering squad there at Mantella Autosport.
Yeah, it's home for him, isn't it? He really, really does. They just fit in well together at this stage. Boy, DeBoer up into 5th overall for Yam driver. Now, let's not forget, last year he, in one of the races at Road America, won the thing in GTS, so we know he's got some speed, as does Parker. Boy, does he get out of that carousel carrying a ton of momentum.
He does, and Lawson just parks it right there. Look at this. He's just trying to time it. He's just got to try and time it to cut underneath. That's a much better job there. He's got a much better run on Lawson Archenbach. This is going to be tight as they head through the S's. Woo! Wild stuff.
They both gave each other enough room for the other car and a piece of paper, and that's all you have to do. I think if he times that next time a little bit better in turn 7, though, he could make that work.
He could. Yeah, he got such a good run out of the carousel that Lawson had to take the right side, and that allowed Parker to just set it up. And you're right, Greg. I think if he can just time it just a fraction better, he may be able to clear him by the time they get to the S's.
And while they're having their little bit of a battle, DeBoer and Baptista have taken some time out. There they are. I mean, it's getting pretty close here. Stacy still sits in the number 14 and 7th, Stavely in 8th, and the number 12.
Those last laps, Greg, looked like the whole pack was within about half a second of each other. Barkey is certainly looking a bit racy. Trimmed a couple of tenths off of Ian James' lead. Is just at 3 seconds right now. Baptista's not going to rest easy, though.
Oh, that's Frank Gannett and the number 24 Ian Lacey Racing entry. I'm not sure whether he had an off and he's just trying to look for a safe place to get back on track, or whether he's had some sort of a mechanical issue.
Kurtz is in.
Oh boy, into the pits, your champion-elect, the 04 George Kurtz. Jeff?
Yeah, down here on pit lane, and the McLaren engineers are here. Problem with the car and the software. They're popping the door, going to plug the car in and see what they can do to get reset. You can see the damage there on the left front. They're also going to take a look at that, but thank God the championship was already clinched here for George Kurtz.
Absolutely, and as you're talking about that, finally Parker Chase down into turn 7, Cal, able to get it done before they got to turn in, got inside of Lawson Aschenbach, and is through.
Yeah, and he look at the pace. He immediately gaps Lawson through the S's, so that Ginetta is really working well. And there's a lot of time on this clock, Greg, for him to chase down the 2 leaders right now.
Yeah, over 30 minutes comfortably at this stage.
He's about 6 seconds back of Ian James right now, our leader in the Panos. Barkey having a solid run there in second, as we mentioned. Hasn't had a podium run yet this season. Looking solid right now, but still a long ways to go.
You know, Parker's last lap was a 1:43.3. It'd be interesting to see now with that clear track what he turns this time out. Lawson now sitting in that 4th spot, and pretty quickly I think he's going to have a mirror full of red, white, and green here.
Derek is now gapped Baptista pretty effectively. This is a brilliant run for Derek DeBoer.
Sure is.
I know they had high hopes coming in here this weekend. Did some testing. As I mentioned, Kevin Buckler, the team principal there, great driver in his own rights, really knows some tricks to the trade around this circuit. And when you get elevation change, Greg, there really is a nuance to that, and having a home court advantage like Kevin Buckler does is huge here.
Makes a big difference. That's Frank Gannett, I think, who is out and has decided, whatever it was, apparently some sort of mechanical issue, and has decided to park it. Here's a look at Parker Chase. Derek is now starting his own attack here on Lawson.
He's got some pace here this afternoon. He's just going to pick his moment and have a go here for position. This is a great run here by Derek DeBoer, already up in the top 5 and looking for more. He's not settling just for the class win here this afternoon, which he has a real stranglehold on. George Kurtz, you mentioned, Greg, that brilliant run he's had this year in the McLaren. He's got problems, some kind of software glitch on pit lane. And George Kurtz worked really hard. Oh, look at that defense there. Aschenbach immediately taking that right side. DeBoer hanging on. Whoa, he's fighting understeer there big time. Just got in there way too deep. Overcommitted. Got to regroup now.
Now he was able to get there fairly quickly.
He got a little bit feisty there.
Yeah, he did.
Think about tempering that speed. I think he thought he could make it stick around the outside, and the front end just gave up on him. Just asked too much of the race car. May have gotten into the ABS a little bit as well as he's trying to turn.
And interesting here, you know, we were talking about the problems with George Kurtz. Were it not for Derek DeBoer, suddenly you'd have Gaples and Clennon separated by a point, going 1-2 in the class here. Derek's kind of put that to rest, but here is Tony Gaples running second right now in the GTSA category. Had the points lead for a large part of the season, and it all changed at Mid-Ohio when Kurtz got to the front at that point. But right behind him, Mark Clennon, who early in the season we saw him put in some absolutely stunning runs, and then it's like he kind of hit a little wall for a little while here in that Tenderbelly McLaren. I love the orange color on it. That's absolutely right. But here, he's found his pace again.
Yeah, it's a great little battle, and as you mentioned, Greg, just 1 point separating them coming into this race today, so these positions are super critical. And oh, Clennon really wide there, hung on to it nicely, didn't overreact. Johnny O'Connell from the GT class had a huge wreck there yesterday in practice with exactly the same thing happening, dropping those right side wheels. Mark just did a good job of just keeping the car straight.
And of course, Mark's wife, Jamie, is very, very involved with animal rescue. She has her own nonprofit that helps raise funds for various animal rescues, and they kind of connected here with one nearby called Lily's Senior Dog Sanctuary. And Mark said he was so impressed when he and Jamie went over there. He said, whatever winnings I have here, and he said, I'll probably augment that with some of my own. I'm just going to dedicate it right to this remarkable group, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah, special people.
Yep, they sure are.
Ian James, meanwhile, up front, but Rocky is now 3.5 seconds back. Chase has really not been able to do anything with the pace of these front runners. James' last lap was a 1:42.5, and everyone else in the low 43s and high 43s. So Ian James just dominant right now.
Well, he is just in the zone, isn't he? Barkey has now established a sizable margin. He's 4 seconds clear of Chase and Aschenbach. And Derek DeBoer has once again been able, after that moment in turn 11, has been able to close it up just a little bit. Oh, somebody else dropping on.
Sure if that was Parker or not. Derek DeBoer deep on the brakes. He's just hounding our champion here, Lawson Aschenbach.
Oh, he may have got it done.
Yeah, and he's got a good run here.
Yep. Look at Lawson,
Quite clear him, though.
Well, you know, we were talking about his win last year at Road America, and you remember how diabolically good on the brakes he was at Road America. Obviously, he hasn't lost that bit of finesse.
No, he's not afraid to stuff it in there. And sure, only a testimony to him, but also what the car will give you in terms of being able to brake that late and still get it turned. You can see the confidence he had when he tried to make that outside move. Now he looks to the inside. Got to be careful here. Late move.
Oh, look at this. Great stuff.
Nice. Lawson gave him just enough racing room, but that Camaro's coming back at him. A lot of torque there.
Yep. Ooh.
That was sweet. Good job, Derek DeBoer. Just takes it in there late enough to clear him. Really leaning on that right side. You can see the tire smoke, I think it was, but it's fully loaded, fully compressed.
And compression as they start that climb.
And that's just really getting into a new zone in terms of the driver just feeling that you just got to go in that little bit deeper. Just clear the car on your flank and then go for the corner.
See how quickly he's able to ease away. And you'd think with the relative ease he was able to run Lawson down that he might be able to do just that. I'm a little surprised that Parker, once he got through, has not been able to do all that much with Martin Barkey here. Barkey, his last lap, Parker actually did take a little bit out of Barkey on that last lap, so maybe now that's starting to come to life as well.
Baptista again, nice solid run here for his teammate Stacy, one position back, so it's going to keep that points battle very tight with just tomorrow's race remaining on the season. But it was just great to see Martin Barkey, despite not having a podium run here this year, how ebullient he was about his season of racing this year, Greg, last night when I spoke to him. A bit of debris there heading through the S's.
Well, he's had some great runs. He's had poles. He's certainly shown some great speed on occasion. And just a couple of times he's pushed a little hard and had spins, etc. And other times he's just run afoul of some unfortunate luck. But the pace has been there, and I think it's really been a learning curve for him when they made that complete change in the approach to BOP for that car at the team and the manufacturer's behest. We should, make note of that. Was they said right now where you're restricting the engine output on this car, it's only a little four-cylinder 2-liter turbo, and they said when you restrict the revs like that, we got nothing. We can't race. We're quick in a corner because we're light. And they said if you could give us some weight and give us a little power, we'll race better. We may not be as fast on an open lap, but we'll settle for that. But he had to learn how to drive a very different car, didn't he?
Yeah, no, there's a transition period, and the team had to work how to work the setup and the time management with the more weight on the car, and it got a little bit lazy, but it was give and take, and they asked for it because it could run a lap time, but in terms of its raceability, as I call it, he just gets shuffled backwards and didn't have anything on the straightaways to fight back with. So now he does have a sort of equal power and similar straightaway speeds, and it allows him to have much better performance.
Well, apparently they've sussed out whatever the electronics issue was in the McLaren, and George Kurtz back out on track. Great to see here. You want to, even though you've clinched the championship, you certainly want to be able to finish the season out here. It's great to see him able to do that. And, you know, to get back to what we were just talking about, if you've got a huge mid-corner advantage, but you catch a car that doesn't, and you're parked in that corner, and that car has way more straight line than you, doesn't matter how good your mid-corner speed is, you're not going to get by him. Right?
No, it's super frustrating. I remember back to Canadian Tire Motorsports Park where he just kept getting shuffled further and further back the order. Had a really quick car, but get to that back straightaway, everyone would disappear on him. So I think he's just enjoying it. The team's done a great job developing the crossbelt in that manner. And it now fits. I mean, it was a real melting pot of machinery last year when everyone came together. I think the series done a brilliant job in terms of the balance of performance, and we can see some fine racing like we're exhibiting here today.
You talked about the quality of that team that he runs with, and Martin is just a great guy to have in the paddock. He just loves his racing, and he's just truly a great person to be around. He's effervescent, and it's catching. Speaking of catching, looks like Baptista now. Every time Lawson gets passed by somebody else takes up the mantle, don't they?
Yeah, and this was Lawson's concern. I spoke to him briefly before qualifying yesterday, and he said, yeah, we're in decent shape. We've got a pretty fast race car, but he said, I'm still worried about managing it over the long run. And that's starting to develop here a little bit. And that Manufacturers Championship is still relatively tight. GM Chevrolet came into this race with an 11-point lead over Porsche. And he currently leads the Porsches, but I think they were 14, 15 points ahead of Panos. So if Ian James should sweep here this weekend, that could really tighten things up. Yeah, it was 15-point lead over Panos coming in, so 22 points potentially on the table if Ian James could sweep. He right now has the fastest race lap just by a sliver over Martin Barkey, so that would be another bonus point and set up that clean sweep of 52 points for the weekend. 22 potentially for the manufacturer's chase.
And considering it's still pretty staggering considering where they were after the first couple of races of the season, to see them now going for a 6th win on the championship tells you. But again, when you've got, you know, Dr. Don Panos and you've got Tom Milner, who, how did he put it? I decided to take a vacation from retirement at Dr. Don's request and come back.
It's a good group.
Yeah,
it's a solid group. I mean, hats off to Don for keeping the core group there at Panos Motorsports, and they just turnkey. You just plug and play. They put out a great race car, and they're great fixes that they develop quickly. Great engineering there with Stefan Pfeiffer helping them out, and the boys just know how to get it done. And girls, there's girls on that squad as well.
Absolutely. And, you know, I mean, look at the teams running here at the sharp end of this one. You've got the, you know, Panos Racing up front. You've got Mantella Autosport having a good run. You've got Performance Motorsports Group, which evolved from Motorsports Development Group, which fielded Alec Udell in the early days in GTS. But you got Black Dog Speed Shop. I mean, that's one of the legendary teams in World Challenge. And you've got Flying Lizards, which is, you know, talk about a legendary sports car racing team. So GTS is chock full of talent. And whether it's pro or the GTSA category, they just put on a great show. And this battle for second right now, second in the GTSA race here, but also for second in the GTSA championship. 1 point separating these two guys, and that's why you see, I think, Clennon working so hard and taking a few risks on occasion in that tender belly racing for pause machine.
Well, looking at the lap times, though, Clennon is way faster, great 500s. They're really tight. It's a great little battle. A little bit of smoke there from Gables as he's heading through the S's. I'm not sure if there's any rub there, or he just seems to transition and move the weight around on the back of the car, or whether it's coming from the exhaust. Tony's such a good racer, always makes up a bundle of positions during these races.
Over the years, I've called him the pass master, and he said, yeah, that just means I'm not a good qualifier. And I said, and he admits it. He said, that's not my forte. But you love to watch the guy during the race because he just eats people up in front of him. He just races incredibly well.
Makes you wonder if he does it on purpose.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Make the race day more fun. Been really tidy here today. I haven't really seen any slips or mistakes by Tony. Really hitting his lines nicely. It's that last 10-15 minutes when it really counts, when the tires are not at their best and the track starts to get a little bit greasy.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think, was it 2008 when Tony got his a podium overall in GT back in the day, driving a Black Dog Chevrolet Corvette here. Ended up with a third-place finish, so this is a track that he really liked. You see that little puff of smoke?
Similar to Gaples, same area of the racetrack. That seems like both the Camaros just releasing a little smoke when they load the car up through there. Saw from Gaples on the previous lap. It's right when they start the S's that seems to come out the tail of the car somewhere. Well, Barkey took. No, James is responding. On the previous lap, Barkey took 7 8/10 out of Ian James' lead, but Ian James has now just cleared Barkey by 3/10 on that next lap.
So Ian's managing things, it would appear, nicely.
It's unfortunate in that second race at Coda that he got hit there on the opening lap and got the damage. Otherwise, I think he could have been a factor for another victory.
Absolutely.
That day.
One thing I'm watching here, it looks like the back end of this number 3 Lizard Porsche Baptista pretty free. Comes up and over, particularly when he makes the run up and over turn 2 and through 3. The car is certainly rotating well. Maybe that's what he wants. But he certainly is getting that back end to swing a bit.
Yeah, he's a real talent.
Yeah.
Spoke to his manager at the last race and said we've got some big plans for next year. Wouldn't be surprised to see them back with the same Flying Lizard Motorsport group. Maybe in a different car, even maybe a different class to be determined, but he's a real talent. It seems like he's got good support and did a great job over in Europe in endurance racing. He's running the Brazilian Porsche Championship as well with great success down there. See that smoke right there?
Right there.
Yep.
And then right in here, too. You see it when he gets on the brakes on occasion. Not so much that time. Well, and we watched Baptista, was it at Lime Rock where he swept the weekend? I mean, you know, that's a bull ring, and it's a track that it's easy to get to the 9/10, you know, in terms of a lap. That last 10th is tough. He got there like that and was just spectacular.
Just on it, and you know, leading races didn't phase him at all. Just got on with the program. So the boy's a winner. He has a lot of talent, and I think we're going to hear a lot more about him in years to come.
17 minutes to go here in round 17 of 18 for the Pirelli World Challenge GTS field.
He floats great speed in there up through turn 2. Just able to release the brakes and just let it roll speed, which is so effective around this racetrack rather than just stopping and starting the race car. Particularly when you got elevation change. If you're parking the car and then trying to reaccelerate, it just generates traction issues. Baptista using every inch of the curve and more. Here, how you have to use what we call maintenance throttle through there. You can't just pick it up. Just got to pick up the throttle delicately and then just gradually feed it in as the grip comes back to you.
Well, there's like halfway through that corner, it's almost like you got a little bit of banking where you can charge a little bit, and then it just drops and goes off camber, and you better be ready for that.
Yep. Also better be ready for this attack he's about to be under, I think.
I think you're right.
Tell you what, Derek DeBoer has just left these guys. Amazing. Pretty,
yeah, great run.
The best battle right now on the racetrack. Everyone's kind of separated each other up at the front. James by just around that 3-second mark. He's going up and down. A concertina effect. Barkey will occasionally take a little bit out. The lead is now down to 2.6. So as close as we've seen it in the last 15-20 minutes of this race. So he's not giving up hope. Certainly keeping Ian James on his toes. But as you mentioned, Greg, he's probably managing that pace up front.
Well, and that's one of the things. I mean, when you can go out and build up a nice lead, then you can give away just a little bit and be able to save something if you absolutely need it. The question is going to be, what does Barkey have left? Can he really go after it? It's interesting, too, you know, watching the Aschenbach-Baptista battle. Both of the Black Dot cars are in the best battles on the track. Aschenbach over Baptista in GTS and Gaples over Clennon in GTSA.
Bucky's a monster through sector 1. Wow, took half a second out of Ian James there.
Well, I wonder if this is fair evidence that we've, Barkey and that team have really figured out the new BOP on this car, and have figured out, like you said, how to conserve those smaller tires with the heavier weight. But it's still lighter than the cars it's up against here.
Equal in sector 2.
Yeah, this is good.
The overall lap here, he should be a little bit closer. It was 2.6 seconds last time across the stripe.
Look at this. Still hanging in there.
This is great for Rodrigo Baptista in terms of him learning the trade, learning how to race against masters at this sport like Lawson Aschenbach. You will see exactly how Lawson protects that inside line. It seems like Baptista has had the speed at the beginning of the year. He just looks a lot more polished now as this season has progressed. 2.2 across the stripe, the gap between the leaders. Ian James still leads, 2.2 seconds ahead of Barkey.
Right here, just the way that Porsche turns in. Ooh, Derek running. Why, he is still hammering it, isn't he?
He is. Look at that. He is right on the limit. Like most guys, you think last time, well, that was a bit beyond the edge. He said, that's no problem. I'll just take it even further.
Exactly.
You can see the front wheels just losing grip on that gravel there as he had a lot of steering input there.
And watch this here. Barkey having just a little bit of a moment here.
Oh, he's committed.
Yeah.
Oh, I wonder if that actually cost him any time. He keeps it together. Probably he's got dirt on his left side tires. This will compromise his time probably in terms of the grip in the next corner. But
yeah,
in terms of the radius, he was quick through there.
He sure was.
Is that smoke again? Yeah. Every time those Camaros, something must just load up. I'm not sure if it's oil related or whether it's suspension and bodywork related through that corner.
Could it be an axle seal? Something along those lines.
Yeah, if it was just on one car, but the fact that they're both doing it, Greg.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, a bit more common. Yes, Baptista.
I was just going to say, too, at the turn in into 12, did you see Baptista? He so wanted to cut behind that curb. You can see it. Now watch this right here. Watch. Well, we weren't as close as we have been before, but
this is where he can float speed.
That's what I'm saying. The back end would just rotate. He just carries speed through there.
Right through here.
Yeah.
If he can float it through 3. Seen the commitment that he's had the last couple of laps through this corner. See what he does this time. A little bit cleaner, it looks like. Camaro's really strong, it seems, this weekend. The mid part of the straightaways across the start finish line and that little acceleration run up to the carousel. Batista not doing anything too ragged right now, just staying really calm, really trying to surprise Lawson Aschenbach. He's not telegraphed anything yet, Greg, in terms of making his intentions known, so maybe he has a plan with just under 11 minutes to go.
See Nate Stacy behind him. This battle, sitting in 7th, teammate to the red and silver.
Big run 3. There.
Boy, didn't he?
Thought about it. Trying to size him up. Camaro's a big silhouette, almost blocks your view when you get that tire behind it. And that's a real factor, Greg, when you're going through some of those elevation changes. It's tough enough to see the road as it is, and when you've got a bigger car in front of you like that, it's really hard to feel and see the road. You're going to follow the guy a little bit in front of you, and if he's already wide and you go a bit wider, it can get you in trouble.
Well, and it's not like that rear window on the Camaro is huge by any means, and if you're driving through that window, trying to look out, there's not much of a view there for you either. So yeah, this is right. That's what I'm talking about. That rotation he gets through there. Yeah,
really working it hard. Got a little bit too sideways there. That cost him some time, as you can see. Great car control, though. Real natural talent.
Under 10. This is pretty much go time here. That charge for Barkey. And he ran off a little bit. He's now back to about 2.9 seconds as we watch Alex Lloyd, who now lives relatively close to this this track. So delighted to come here. I think he ran with this team, as you pointed out, in the Corvette and GT 3 races back in 2014.
And great single
vintage racing for him too, doesn't
Yep, had a great single-seater career going, and that kind of stalled out. He said he had to make some decisions. Moved into the business world with great success. So this is a bit more playing at the game rather than taking it seriously in terms of a career. But great to see him here this weekend.
Well, didn't he? In 07, I think he won the Indy Lights Championship. In 2010, he was the IndyCar Rookie of the Year.
Right.
So I mean, the guy's that certainly was on the path. Yeah. Now, this car, that number 22, is not the fully homologated GT4 car. It's not the MR that you add on the end of it. So it runs to a little bit different rule set. So that's why it may not be quite as potent, say, as the number 3 here of Baptista. And apparently a big moment here and locking it. Ooh.
Oh, boy.
Oh, man.
That was a little bit wild.
Yeah. Is that just like the ABS?
No, I'm not sure if he's having an ABS issue.
Man.
That's to try and baby that home. Because,
I was going to say.
Just keep it a little bit clean, maybe just not get into the brakes quite as hard and just try and manipulate this last few laps here without any further flat spotting.
And ignore the annoying vibration that's starting to rattle your eyebrows.
Look at this elevation change. Sweeps and turns here. Beautiful part of the country. Saw some interesting pictures of teams that tested here earlier in the year compared to the scenery you see now, Greg. February versus later in the year. Looks strange to see this racetrack with green grass.
It does, yeah.
Racing here at this time of the year has a very different look and feel. Oh, look at this. Baptista working hard, just keeping it clean.
He's just trying to do anything and everything he can just to get Lawson off rhythm a little bit here.
He's just trying to be as efficient as he can, just trying to maximize the grip that the car will give him. Work out where he can just maybe carry a bit more speed in, put Lawson under a little bit of pressure so he has to maybe compromise his line through a corner and then take advantage. But I think the problem is that Camaro seems to just have a little bit more torque through the mid-range. And you watch it here, by the time they get to turn 1, typically Lawson has gapped Baptista a little bit. Right here really seems to come on song.
Yep. That and the fact that it still gets into the braking zones really, really deep. See him dip the brake there, just plant the car. Watch for that rotation again. Boy, that thing just rotates beautifully. By the way, just want to remind you, you want to keep up to date on what's going on with the series in between races, or of course with this being the series finale weekend in the off season. Just you can do it through social media. Go to world-challenge.com. That's your first place to go, but of course you can check it out on Facebook, on the World Challenge Championship fan page, on Twitter. Just look for the handle @WC Racing. And of course, for all things racing, take a moment, check out Motor Trend On Demand, archives of all the World Challenge races that you can watch in the off season. You can start your free trial at motortrendondemand.com today. So some options for you here. Fading back to this battle, which continues to be very close, running for the 10th spot overall, but second and third, and here we go. This time Baptista going to try and pull the outside move. Is it going to work?
Runs in there really deep, realized he couldn't turn in, but then takes the outside lane, just tries to get on the power early. Just great racecraft there. Nice job. That was really cool.
Used that piece of debris as a pick too, didn't he? That's
that was sweet. He really thought that one through. That is a classy move by a youngster. Lawson would have appreciated that. Got down to the outside of him, didn't try and close the door, just went the long way around turn 7, opened up his hands and was able to go on the power early and immediately gaps Lawson Aschenbach.
Yeah, that was really sweet on virtually every level, wasn't it, that execution of that move.
Tell you what, though, looking at this manufacturer's chase, we mentioned Lawson Aschenbach came in with an 11-point lead, or should I say GM did. Lawson Aschenbach representing them, of course, 11-point lead. And 16 points, 15 points over Panos. But if Panos should sweep, it means that Lawson Aschenbach has to get at least 8 points this weekend. Well, right now he's sitting in 6th place, which pays 4 in the manufacturer's chase. So he's going to need to do at least that plus a little bit more tomorrow. Otherwise, it's really going to tighten up.
And we said there's still lots to race for here in those manufacturer championship. These manufacturers invest heavily in these programs here, and it is extremely important and prestigious for them, and they're doing a great job. This battle continues here. You know, it's interesting. I'm looking. We know James has fast lap, but I was just glancing over there. It looks to me like Barkey right now has 1/100th of a second quicker than Aschenbach for second quick lap. So we might have the same front row for the race tomorrow. Oop, Lennon scooted a little wide. Clennon scooted a little wide there. That's going to cost him just a little bit of a distance here. It certainly does. Yes. James doing a nice job. Barkey has been able to trim that again a little bit, but you got to believe there's some pretty significant management going on right now.
Yeah, I tell you what, though, Barkey has certainly got that carrot right in front of him. He's going to keep digging deep. Across the line there, he takes 8/10 out of that lead on Ian James. You'd have to think with the experience of Ian James, he's just trying to manage it, but you don't want to catch traffic, and you don't want it to get down to about a second. Then suddenly you get traffic. You're going to have to take chances and not be able to sit back. As we said, slightly lighter field here this weekend due to mainly to the hurricanes that came through the southeast and delayed teams' travel plans to get here. But so you don't want to let it tighten up too much.
Right. Well, you know, coming out of turn 12, as Kurtz just lets him go here, coming out of 12. You could see that James ran a very different line, well clear of the wall. Looked like he's just being extremely cautious right now. And believe me, they're plenty aware of that manufacturer's battle as well. So,
yeah, I think probably for the big powerhouses like Porsche and GM, it is significant. For Tom Milner, Don Panos, and Ian James, this would be just the icing on the cake, as would have been just a tremendous season. They're not a major manufacturer that they're going to hang their hat on this title, which is certainly significant.
Right.
But if it comes their way, you bet they're going to be digging deep tomorrow for it and try and push GM hard.
You bet. And I think it just would be an incredible story. Again, this car was just literally brand new as a production car, and they did the work on it to make it a race car, and it showed up as early in a development cycle as a race car could conceivably be. And for them to have a shot at the manufacturer championship is remarkable.
It is.
Mr. Barkey and that MBRP Power Sports crossbow.
Loves his racing, as you said. His wife comes along a lot of times to the races. She really enjoys it. His sons occasionally come as well. So it's something that he really enjoys, just staying sometimes a little bit later at some of the race weekends and making it some family time at the same time. So it's a good platform for him. It really works nicely at this stage of his career in the business world, and certainly his racing right now.
And a white flag will be awaiting Mr. Ian James when he comes by.
Pretty race car.
Yeah, I think, in my mind, it's the prettiest Panos I've seen, and that includes the old Roadster and the Batmobile and the like. The lines on this thing are just superb.
You got it right.
Boy, didn't they?
Those forged line wheels look superb, and obviously do a great job as well when they switch to those sort of mid-season. Completed the look.
The English accented Arizona, right?
That's right. Diffie used to always give me a hard time, so I always used to call him the young Englishman, Ian James. We obviously believe that any longer. That would be a severe stretch of the truth, but nonetheless.
Well, no, now it's just a perspective thing. You know, who are you talking
to me, right?
Exactly. All right, here we go through this 10, 11, and now 12. There it is, white flag at the start stand. 1 lap to go for Ian James on his way to a 6th win in the season, perhaps, if everything goes according to plan on this final lap. Martin Barkey maybe on the way to his first podium of the season. Parker Chase on his way to his third straight third.
Yeah, it's a strong run for him. He's actually closed that gap down. He's only 5.7 seconds behind Ian for the lead, and 3 seconds off of Barkey right now for that runner-up position. Ian there taking it nice and easy, not using the curves, not getting close to the track limits.
And let's not forget Derek DeBoer in that 007 LaSalle Solutions Racers Group, Adobe Road Winery, Aston Martin, 4th overall, leading in the AM category by a bunch right now. So good run for him.
Got a little get together tonight, and there'll be added celebration if he can bring that car home in 4th position and winning the AM division.
Here we go. Last time through the legendary S's here at Sonoma Raceway. The S's that Heinz Stuck said were the reason he thought this was North America's best track, especially using the old original layout of the S. You can see the road just off to the left there.
Barkey's probably as close as he's been.
Yeah.
Whole race, other than the start. I believe Ian just controlling it. Nice gap, but
great corners there. Turn 10. Now into 11. He just unwinds the wheel. Drops the hammer in that big V8. 6th straight win for Panos comes at Sonoma Raceway. Ian James, there's Dr. Don. What an incredible moment there for that amazing man, watching the success of this program in the season finale weekend here. And getting a 6th win. Great run by Martin Barkey in the MBRP Power Sports Crossbow from Antella Autosport. And Parker Chase for Performance Motorsports Group in the number 19 Janetta. Great stories all. Here comes Lawson Aschenbach as he comes through in the 6th spot. But Derek DeBoer in the 007 Aston Martin, he is the guy that wins in the GTSA category. And this is the battle right now for 2nd in the class and 2nd in the championship. Tony leading Clennon by 1 point coming in. And he's going to stretch that margin by a couple here if he can hang on in front of Mark right now. But Bob McCallion has come from way back in the order and has gone through
a mistake by Gables, goes straight through the chicane. Can he hang on? Clennon's got the run. Clennon has the run. He leaps over the curve. They're side by side. Wow, what drama here with 2 corners to go.
And McCallion thinking, is this going to be possible? Look at Clennon way down to the inside. Parks Gables. McCallion cuts down underneath, drops the hammer on the V8 in the back of that Sin R1, but it's going to be Clennon coming through. Who's next to the line? 3rd will be Gables, and McCallion 4th.
Wow.
Holy cow.
Wow, what a turn-up.
Unbelievable.
Just as we said, Tony hadn't put a foot wrong. Just a crucial little error there. Just overshot the chicane. Cost him dearly because that's a 4-point swing between, beating your competitor there and having him ahead of you. And that's going to change things dramatically as they head into the race tomorrow. It will now give Clennon, I believe, a 1-point lead.
I think you're exact.
So again, it's going to be a question of who beats who for that runner-up position in the championship.
Wow, what a development here. So there is Ian James, your GTS winner. Great story, as I said, the 007 and Derek DeBoer winning in GTSA. Martin Barkey, I think he's going to be very pleased with this race car. One, he gets that podium monkey off his back and gets one this year. But also, that was a very well-judged drive. And he was right there at the end. And I think maybe, it's the old story about when you have these doubleheader weekends, what you learn in the first race, if you can apply something in the second race, if that did stick for those two to be the same front row, we might see a different race from Martin Barkey tomorrow.
Yeah, it really could. It was a great battle. He really had pace. And I tell you what's going to be interesting. I mean, if we get a similar scenario to this tomorrow with James getting another win, he's got the pole position, the bonus point there, that manufacturer's title, Aschenbach has to finish at least in the position he is today. Otherwise, it could swing to Panos in the final race of the championship.
Boy, that would be an amazing development. And as you said, not outside of the realm of possibility at all. That's why we love coming racing and love watching GTS racing. Is there's so much that can happen. You think about, okay, Lawson's clinched the championship, Kurtz has clinched the GTSA championship, and then you have just a race full of interesting developments like we just had here, including a change in almost in 2nd, 3rd, 4th in the GTSA in the last 3 corners.
Yeah, that was crazy. It looked like it was just bring it home, and a little slip there. He was obviously pushing hard, and sometimes from the outsiders, like, how did that happen? But he was obviously on the limit. Great performances by everyone. There's some great stories here. I mean, James extending that win number through the year. Barkey getting his first podium run. Parker Chase's strong run. Derek DeBoer. Amazing stuff coming off that Sprint X victory at COTA to now come back here to their local circuit for TRG and getting that victory in the GTSA division.
Yeah, they swept at COTA, didn't they? They won both of the races in the GTSA AM category, or GTS AM category for Sprint X. So great stuff. But the story today, what a story it is. With Dr. Don Panos bringing him across the line with a thumbs up. Ian James and Panos, Jeff, get their 6th win on the season. Special, special stuff.
It is. Now need 2 hands to count the wins on the season for 6 for you. Superb drive today, Ian.
Thanks. I just got to thank everybody here at Panos for the car they gave me. Martin kept me really honest there. He was a couple of seconds back the whole time. I couldn't make any mistakes. Don Panos is here this weekend, so I'd love for him to take a trophy back, So it's very exciting. I love racing in this series, and hopefully one more to go tomorrow.
Trying to get that sweep. Looking back at COTA, the problem you had with the impact there, but what might have been had you made that St. Pete rounds?
Yeah, would have, could have. We've had a great year. Everybody's very happy, and Lawson won the championship early, but hey, maybe we'll come in next year and give him a harder time.
I don't think this could be the car to pick for winning next year. Ian James here today, 6 wins now.
Yeah, how do you bet against it?
Yeah, I mean, they're strong.
Yeah.
They are really the dominant team right now in this championship.
Here's a look at Tom Milner as he came over to congratulate his driver, who gets the Motul Fast Lap Award for this race. Hugely important because it means it's also going to be the Motul Pole Award for tomorrow's race. A 1 minute 42.222 second lap for Ian James in the Motul Fast Lap. And we are anticipating, we see the car just coming in to pit lane, and of course want to have a chat with Derek DeBoer, who won in the GTSA category and had a dominant performance in that one, finishing 4th overall. Just remarkable. And let's get down to Jeff, who's found him.
We talk about dominant performance here, the home track for the Racers group. Kind of a home track for you, getting that AM win today.
Yeah, we get a lot of time down here. I just have to say thank you, TRG, as always. Put together an amazing Aston Martin, best sports car on the planet, best team. LaSalle Solutions, Castrol, BRM, and Auto Leadstar all helped us to be here. Those first 5 laps up here with the big dogs were a blast. We had something to give to them, and then just, battling with tires. I had some lockup in one of the turns, and then it was just kind of trying to hang on and stay in that spot and watch these guys check out a little bit.
Well, of course, Derek DeBoer channeling his inner 007. I think I'm going to channel my inner Derek DeBoer, of course, the new R46 DeBoer edition BRM. So there we go for Derek DeBoer.
How beautiful is that? Thank you, Frederic.
Absolutely. Look at that. They do love those BRM chronographs, as they certainly well should. Great run for Derek DeBoer. Basically a 3rd straight win when you think about the sweep in the GTS MM category in Sprint X at Circuit of the Americas. Well, that's going to wrap things up for us here in our coverage today. We sure appreciate you joining us here on our global webcast and live coverage of Pirelli World Challenge and the Sonoma Grand Prix. Want to remind everybody that about 10 a.m. tomorrow morning will be the season finale of the Pirelli World Challenge GT Championship in the finale of the Sprint Series. And we've got a huge battle going on in that one. 4 points separate Pat Long and Alvaro Parent, and see who's going to end up as the champion in that one. And then shortly after lunch break here at the track at about 1:30 or so, maybe make it 1:20 or so, we will have the season finale here in GTS. And we'll see what happens in terms of some secondary positions in the championship for the drivers, but for manufacturers, big story evolving there as well. Thanks so much for joining us. For Cal and for Jeff, I'm Greg Creamer. Have a great evening, folks. Whatever you do, enjoy it a lot, but do it safely. We look forward to talking to you again tomorrow.